Diamond Head Beach Resort, and this is a meeting of the Town of Fort Myers Beach Cultural and Environmental Learning Center Advisory Board, commonly known as CELCAB, and would like to open this meeting with a call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. And the flag, by the way, is over there.
I was going to say, what is the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
And we'll start with the roll call, beginning with Ellen.
Ellen Vaughn.
Betty Simpson.
Barbara Hill.
Sherry Smith. Lori Wolf.
Jim Adderholt. And Jeff Hauge.
Jeff. Excellent.
And on the phone, Carrie Henderson.
Carrie Henderson.
Oh, and Carrie Henderson is on the phone. May I say welcome, a warm welcome to our new CELCAB member, Carrie Henderson. I look forward to meeting you. Sorry you couldn't be here.
Thank you.
Look forward to meeting you, and hopefully you'll enjoy serving on this board. It really is very gratifying, and we're doing incredibly exciting work on behalf of the town.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate it.
Okay, we have a reorganization process right now. This is our first meeting after the council reappointed us. And of course, we had an election before the famous Hurricane Ian hit us.
I'd like to start this off by nominating Barbara Hill to be our chairman.
Why, thank you, Betty. I appreciate that.
I will second that.
Thank you. And so that would be for the chair. And what about the vice chair?
Nominate Sherry Smith as our vice chairman.
And I suspect that you will accept that nomination.
I will accept it, yes.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay. So
You
we've
both have
got,
done a great job before.
She has.
thank you. Well, I am honored to yet again serve as chair. I don't recall how many years it's been, maybe a dozen, I'm not quite sure, but I appreciate it, and it's a privilege, and I look forward to working again with Sherry. And so, all in favor of the chair and vice chair election, please indicate by saying yea.
Aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? None? So the reorganization of our CELCAB board is complete. Thank you very much. The approval of the minutes, Jeff was kind enough to send us the minutes a few days ago, and hopefully you've all had a chance to review them. Are there any changes or additions?
I'd move the approval of the July 28th, 2022 minutes.
Thank you, Betty. Second?
I'll second.
And that's Sherry. Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. We have public comment at this point. If anybody from the audience would like to speak, by all means, you are most welcome. If there are none, we will then move on to the staff liaison report. And I just want to start this by saying obviously, as we all know, our incredible leader, Allison Geeson, left to join the VCB for Lee County, and so she's in a really wonderful position. But I want to thank her publicly for the work that she has done during her tenure here as our museum director. She's been wonderful in terms of building the programs and bringing sustainability and growing membership and growing the opportunities that exist for activities on the Mound House property and the quality of the experience for the public in general. So I want to thank her for, I want to thank her for that. And then we have interim museum director Jeff Haig, and thank you so much for stepping into this position. I don't know that you actually had a choice, but there it is.
They did ask, yes.
You did, oh, you did actually, okay.
They asked me.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I can, for one, say that you have done an incredible job in the short time you've been interim director, and I don't know about the others. Perhaps you would like to speak to that as well, but I am certainly not worried about the care that the Mound House has taken under your leadership. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And yes, they did ask, and I accepted
Oh,
because
good.
it's just such a great opportunity for me. And post hurricane, I've got to spend a lot of time at the Mound House. That's where my office is now, and I've just fell in love with it. So,
Yeah.
with all the programming and potential that it has, I'm really excited for the opportunity.
Fantastic. And with that, you can start with your report.
Yeah, so most everything I have just to kind of touch base on is post Ian, of course, and that's on the items for agenda too. It's just talking about where we're at with everything. We sustained not awful destruction out there. It actually held up really well, and we've gotten the pieces almost put back together almost entirely. We're having tours back. The Mound House is open. The grounds are looking great. The repairs are all getting done. We have electricity in almost all the buildings right now. The underground we're getting there. We had electricians in yesterday, but there was some extra corrosion in there, so it might take a few more days to get the wiring done on that. But very soon the underground will be open with electricity and lights and all sorts of things. So. Just, I guess, with that, we've had some awesome things happen over the past few months. We had the ribbon cutting, the reopening. We had a great event out there already. We've had an Earth Day event that just happened that was out at Mound House. So we're already getting things going on the island, which, for the island is a great thing. It's much needed, and we are looking forward to having more events in the upcoming months, for sure. So we also had a volunteer appreciation event for our volunteers, and we're looking forward to having them back very soon as we get more things happening and rolling. We do have guided tours that are going to be starting next week. So we're going to have some guided tours, as well as the self-guided tours in the museum. Also kayak tours as well are going to be starting this Saturday. So this Saturday we're going to be doing kayak tours starting. So things are really getting going. And if you haven't visited the Mound House, and I know all of you have, it's just a great spot right now. It's a lot of green space, and there are really not a whole lot of spaces on the island that are like that. It's just beautiful out there.
How did the grounds do in general? I mean, most of the landscaping is basically native landscaping, so it's able to withstand a lot of salt and the remnants of Ian. But what were there any trees that died? Were there trees that had fallen? What is the status of the garden?
Yeah, there was some trees that were fallen, and a few. We just had a landscaping company come in, and they identified which ones were not going to make it. There were some sable palms that we had to take out that just weren't going to come back. In general, there are many of things that are still there and thriving. We kind of held off on trimming too much because of the shock of the salt water and everything. And it's a good thing we did, because now things are coming back and we're starting to see the buds on all of the plants and trees. But yeah, they held up pretty well. Only a couple trees went down. We had, of course, debris out there, but we got it cleaned up pretty well. The landscaping is, it washed away, but we are starting to, or we have completed like the pine strawing and mulching and just getting it back to how it should be.
And the rainy season is going to help tremendously once that begins in earnest, right?
Yeah. The grass can be brown at times, but I think that's just part of the season. And once we get
Right.
some water on that, but overall, it's held up really well.
Okay, good. So none of the signs have to be redone because they're no longer describing something that's not there?
No, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think all the signs are still there. Yeah, we
Which
cleaned
is
them up.
also
and-
phenomenal.
Yeah, the only one that we would really want replaced very soon is the one right off Estero Boulevard, pointing into the Mound House where everyone saw, the brown one. So
Yes.
at some point we need to get that up, because I think that did attract some visitors as well.
You don't actually have the sign, you have to have a new one made, and that's the state sign.
Correct, yes.
So you have a lot of bureaucracy to go through in
Yeah,
order to get
yeah.
that back up.
Correct. Yeah, other things are, we're having FGCUs coming back for tours, so we're getting some students out there as well. So we're just trying to make it the best we can out there, because we know that that's one of the places on the island that really stood the test of the hurricane, and we can definitely show it off.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
I was wondering on the website, under things to do, the Mound House, that's not updated saying that we're open, we have tours and blah, 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 blah. Who handles that? And, I have an advertising agency that's considerably pretty large, and I have a staff that can actually update that kind of stuff for us, but I was just wondering who normally handles that for us.
Yeah, so we have a web designer that puts all that information on our website. Currently still our website is currently down. We're working on getting it back up real soon. It just went down today. But all of the information on there should be updated. It just is a matter of us getting the information to the web designer and him putting it on the web page. So.
Okay, yeah, we definitely want to make sure that's out there, and then we'll share the link and make sure that we put it out on all of our other areas that we can help promote it.
Yes, agreed.
Anything else to report with regard to staff? Can you tell me a little bit about the staff scenario right now?
Yeah, well-
Who do you have working with you?
So our staff is down a little bit, just with some post-hurricane, things going on. We have Adam, who's our museum manager, interim museum manager, Adam Knight. Karina is still there as helping us out with everything in the office, and she's really our go-to for everything we need. And Sandra, she is in the visitor services in the store.
Am I to understand that, I'm sorry, I didn't catch her first name, our new member, Ms. Henderson?
Carrie?
Carrie. Carrie, did I understand that perhaps you would be in a position of volunteering to help with the web designers getting our info back on track? Was that kind of what that conversation was about?
I have an agency. We have a web designer in-house. We have a couple, actually, and they do graphic designs, wonderful work. So yeah, no, absolutely. If you guys ever need something like that, all you got to do is just let us know and give us a couple days, and usually we can whip it up, make any changes, and off it can go.
Carrie, that's a wonderful volunteer effort. Thank you so much for the lead, and definitely we would like to take advantage of that, I would think. I think part of the web that we had issues with was to have it truly interactive so that people could look at the gift shop merchandise and actually make purchases. And I think that the membership renewals could have been a more seamless process than it currently has been. So perhaps those are the issues that you could maybe look at helping us with. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, and if you guys just kind of educate me on what exactly you're needing or need help with, just give me a shout. We'll set up a time, and I'll take the time and make sure that, I have one of my staff members there with me, and we'll just figure out what we need to do there. We'll be happy to help in any way we can.
Okay, thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate that. I didn't want to let that go. When somebody volunteers to help in an area that we don't have, we want to certainly jump on it. So thank you, Carrie.
I do have a couple more items.
Yes.
One is we're still doing the lecture series, so anybody that wants to sign up for those, when the website is back up, hopefully later today, you can go on and sign up for those. But we have some good ones coming up, and they're scheduled through September. So just go on the website and sign up for those, because they're great.
So you have an active summer program then, and are you going to still be working with kids over the summer? We had summer camp programs at one point. Is that not going to happen this summer?
We don't have anything planned right now at Mound House, although there is the possibility for it because of the transition with Bay Oaks and not having a summer program there. It would be nice to have some programming out there, and it's something we've talked about. So it's a possibility, because the space is available.
Right. Ellen, did you have anything to add? You were looking at me, I just didn't want to miss you.
Well, when we get to, I'll provide that information, because
For
it does
the
tie into a lot
Friends.
of stuff that was discussed, but I'll do that during the Friends of the Mountain House
Okay.
report.
Okay. So you want to say more about the Mound House and then go to Newton Park?
We can
or-
start with Newton.
Okay,
Yeah. So right now, Newton it's cleaned up. It's pretty much mitigated there. I just drove by it today. Just drove to it and just check it out, and all the debris is off of it. However, talking to Chad in our environmental department, they may be using it for a sand distribution site for the projects that are going on in the town. So as of right now, it's probably going to have some sand on it for a while for the sand that goes back on the beach. So I guess going forward, once that's all done, we'll get temporary restrooms there and then start the cleanup process. I was at the TDC meeting last night, and our funds made it through the committee to get the new structures, the new shade structures that are going to go like the old ones were. So there's plans in the works to revitalize Newton once we get it cleaned up, and it's still going to be used for educational, beach walks, signage, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to get put back. So I know if I've had some phone calls saying, is it going to be a parking lot? And I said, no, it's not. We're going to be using it. So
and we have a responsibility to the Florida Communities
Correct.
Trust, from which we received state funding
Yep.
to make that possible. So obviously, we have to be mindful of maintaining that promise to keep it as a passive educational experience for the public, and certainly access to the beach
Yep.
itself. But I'm really interested in hearing that is a TDC-approved initiative to actually rebuild a building of some kind there.
yeah, I don't know about the building itself, but at least the shade structures we got approval for.
Okay, just the
building
shade
is still,
structures.
I don't know what's happening with that, but yeah, it's just the shade structures that we got money for.
Yeah, I do have a question on that. Parkboard and stuff. Do we get to help with laying out the plans of that so that we have plenty of room for flowers and all the other things that used to be there? How does that kind of work, you guys? And sorry if this is a stupid question, I'm just not familiar.
Carrie, yes, we actually have a strategic plan for both the Mound House and the Newton Park property. So clearly, that strategic plan was, in good stead and kept active, and we had periodic reviews by our advisory board to add whatever needed to be added and make adjustments as we progressed. However, all of that changed radically when Hurricane Ian came, and certainly we want to look at all of the opportunities, whether it's grant funding for a new building or, kind of thinking again about what that building can include as a possibility. So, and maybe it would even provide a kind of visitor center for ecological and wildlife and environmental functions.
Yeah, and the possibilities, there's plenty there that we can discuss as far as what's moving forward on it. And quite frankly, with everything else going on, we haven't really got to that point yet.
Right.
However, it is up. We can make some decisions on there and what that looks like.
Yes, and
Sherry Smith, in the past, we had talked a little bit about renaming the park, like calling it Seven Seas, which it was initially. And I'm just wondering, with a fresh start like this, if there's any possibility of addressing that.
I believe I was reading through the past minutes, and I believe that was addressed. I don't know where it landed.
it didn't land, actually.
It didn't land. Okay.
Land. So I'm just,
Unfortunately, because
yeah.
I think the consensus of our advisory board is that, it was misnamed in the beginning. Had it been a philanthropic gift and it was a donation to the town, by all means, that would have been an appropriate name. But because it wasn't, and that was actually, I think, $1 million purchase that the town had to make with help from the state, it was still named after an individual, which we didn't feel was appropriate. So the building itself was always called Seven Seas by the family, and we all felt that Seven Seas Park might sound better and have more meaning and be more pragmatic than the way it's currently named. So it's a big thing to rename something like that because it is a cultural institution now without a building, but yeah, I think it's worth addressing. So should we all keep that on our strategic plan?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the next meeting that we have, we should all get copies, and certainly Carrie needs to get a copy because she probably hasn't seen either of the strategic plan for
No, I have not.
for Mound House and for Newton Park. So that'll give you a lot of good information about what we intend to do going forward. And obviously, most of that has to go now through major revisions. So that's,
Can I add something though? I will tell you guys, one of the things that attracted us to, we purchased, one of the, condominiums in Whitecap. Newton Park is actually a name of a family, which I know you guys all know this, but there is a book out there about it. And I will tell you that I have a lot of people that inquire about our condominium because of that, because actually we always purchase the book and leave it there for them. And they usually take it home with them and read it and pass it on and yada, yada, yada. So this is something I just wanted to bring up, that Newton Park name is actually got a name out there amongst people because of people that are into history and know about the Edisons and blah, 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 blah.
yes, we know why it was named the way it was. And certainly Seven Seas could also reference the Newton family because that's what they called that building back then. So it certainly is. And when you come personally, Carrie, and we can have that conversation during a strategic planning meeting, by all means, let's have that conversation.
Thank you, guys.
Madam Chair?
Yes, and Jim,
I
yes.
just said, are we on item
We're
6?
still hearing Jeff's report.
Okay, very good.
Staff liaison's
Okay, yep.
report. Yeah, we haven't moved further.
Right.
So, all right, so I've kind of talked a lot. You guys, to ask Jeff what any of your questions are, any of your concerns with the status of both institutions now.
No. On Newton Park, Sherry Smith, are they still planning on putting up, I think they're talking about a portable bathroom in that area? Are they?
Yes,
they're
yeah,
still
once,
planning?
once it kind of gets done and turned over to us, that's the first thing. We already have purchase order requests in for it.
Okay.
It's already in the plans, to get
Okay.
restrooms at least portable for now. And then that'll be part of the structure there. That'll be permanent
Okay.
restrooms.
Maybe we can name that.
Oh, Sherry,
Sorry.
okay.
Jeff, if I could, Madam Chair, just could you clarify a little bit on the restrooms? Is that TDC funded as well?
Yes,
Yes. the
So
restrooms are.
so that right now we have funding projected for the restrooms and the shelter area at Newton Park, is that correct?
Just the shade structures that were on there, I think they were like tiki.
The thatch?
the tiki
Yeah,
huts.
yeah. So those and the restrooms were TDC.
Do we know what that dollar amount is at this point?
I don't have that with me, I'm sorry.
And I would just add, just for background, there will be a period of time, I've talked with Chad about the issue of the emergency berm. They're disseminating the sand right now throughout the island. And the emergency berm phase of the sand is trucked in sand. And it's about $7 million worth of sand that's paid for by the feds. And that sand will go to any property that signed the easement with the town. And the sand will go as close to the property as possible to act as sort of an emergency berm in case we have some kind of a hurricane issue, hopefully a smaller one. It would help act as a protective wall, if you will. And then, of course, those piles you see on the beach right now will be smoothed out. There'll be vegetation planted. That's all part of the funding source. And then, and I think they need that Newton Park area just because there's only I think 5 areas right now where that sand can be disseminated, again, via truck. So after that phase is done, the emergency berm phase, we'll move to the beach renourishment phase, which will be this fall and early next year. That's a $25 billion project. Again, a lot of TDC funding in that, some state, a little bit of the town. And that will be sand that's pumped in from the bay, from the Gulf, and that will be disseminated throughout the island, more for areas that signed the easement, but it'll certainly touch the entire beach. Again, we're getting about $32 million worth of new sand, and the town's putting in about $1 million of the 32, so it's really a once-in-a-lifetime infusion of sand to our island, and the sand, the trucked-in sand, for those who have seen it, is beautiful sand, and so it's a big project. So again, for those folks who are on, if you know folks who live on the Gulf and they've not signed their easement, there's still time to do that. And it's free sand, and you have some control over it. It's one of the most generous easements, I think, that's been designed in recent history in Southwest Florida. So it's really a good deal, and it's certainly great for our beach.
Agreed. Thank you for sharing that. Very important. Jim, another question. I'm just curious. Where did that sand come from?
The trucked-in sand from various quarries around and outside of Lee County, depending on it has to be a certain color, because the color of the sand determines how the turtles, what sex the turtles will be. Because of
Right.
the heat it
Interesting.
generates and so forth. So they had to get a certain coarseness, so it's beautifully light sand, but it also has to be a certain coarseness, which allows it to hold better in place. And but again, I think 3 or 4 different quarries are supplying that sand.
Interesting. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jim.
I
Yes,
would-
and the fact that the federal government is paying for it.
And the
is
feds have
even
been great
better.
on that.
That's-
And I would say too, for those who are really interested, I do this little public service show with Jacob back there, who's my cameraman, and we do it's called Key Questions with Key Staffers. And this week's, which is on the town's website, it features Steve Poposky, who oversees our permitting. And if you have any questions about permitting, it's a great one to see, because he kind of gives people advice about how to get through the process successfully. But at the end of it, I interviewed Chad Schutz, our environmental projects director, and we're out literally at the sand pile, and he describes the sand, how it gets there, how it'll be utilized, and we're actually on location so people can see that. And since we're just mentioning that, I would say 2 other things. As it relates to the Mound House, we did Key Questions with Key Staffers while Allison was still here. Jeff was on the show and Adam was on the show. We actually filmed it out at the Mound House. Just a beautiful day, and got a great tour of the property. And Allison gave her spiel. Adam gave his piece. Jeff talked about Bay Oaks. And so and you can get that if you go to Fort Myers Beach YouTube channel, you can go back and watch that for those folks who haven't had a chance to come out to the Mound House since the hurricane. It's a great way to see the grounds, the gift. Allison gives a nice tour of the gift shop. We couldn't get in the Mound House itself yet at that point because they were still doing the floors. But those are great ways to see what's happening. And since I have the mic, I can't help myself. We have a new utilities manager who started with the town 5 weeks ago, and he's going to be in this week's Key Questions, which will come out on Friday. This fella comes from Lee County, has extensive experience in the water space in Lee County, extremely knowledgeable. So if you have any kind of questions or concerns about your billing on your water bill, your sewer, your stormwater bill, this fella, Steve Matuska, is extremely knowledgeable. He gets into all of those details. He talks about how we're cleaning out the stormwater sewers, and he also talks about where our water comes from. Do you really need a filter? Do you need to be buying bottled water? The quality of the water. He has an amazing in-depth knowledge of the water utility business. And I think that's really interesting. So forgive me, I didn't want to digress, but I think it'll be interesting to people.
Absolutely. Very informative. Thank you so much. And Lori, do you have a?
Jim, I'd want to ask you something for a little clarification. You said that the sand, the $7 million sand pile, there'll be a pile on Newton Park.
One of probably 6 locations.
Okay.
It'll be a launching point.
And then again with the 32 million.
Again, with the 25 million.
Okay, yeah. So Newton Park will not be accessible to put the restrooms or the shade until after all of that is complete. Is that correct?
Just for the emergency berm part, because that's trucked in sand, and they need places to park it and then disseminate it along the beach. Once that phase is done, the next phase, the renourishment phase, which will be much longer, will be, again, pumped in from the Gulf, so we should
So
have
you don't need
access
pipes.
to Newton Park by that time. And it shouldn't be more than a couple of months to get the emergency berm piece done.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know who to address this question to, if it's Adam or if it's Jeff or if it's Jim. But I know that we had that wonderful parking facility in the front of Seven Seas building. And that is certainly a revenue source that at this point the town desperately needs. What are the plans to reinstate that parking lot as it was?
That is a great question. I'm going to make a note on that. I don't know the answer to that question. I will comment just briefly, and it's still tentative. The building itself on Newton Park, the town itself, as I understand it, was demonstrably underinsured. And so I'm not sure what kind of help we're going to get on that building. So that's something that this committee is going to have to be thinking about over the next few months as to how we whether we want to replace the building. If we don't, maybe we landscape it, maybe we make it more natural, maybe keep the parking and certainly the shade in the restroom area, but make it more natural. But it's, that this committee will be pivotal in kind of determining the future of Newton Park or Seven Seas, however we decide to proceed.
Okay.
But to answer your questions, I don't know specifically on that parking, but I'll check on that. I'm sure Jeff can check as well.
Because
Yeah,
as a revenue source, as
Yes, no, I agree.
desperate as
And it's a
you
good
all-
location, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, it's gonna go back and have those same parking,
Same parking spaces.
spaces. We even talked about today when I went there and kind of came back after kind of assessing Newton today, was once we get this emergency berm, just to start getting ready for the crushed shell for the parking and everything. So we're really forward thinking on trying to get that going as soon as we can.
And I love,
I brought up, earlier, just being right across the street, I know people want to park there, and I know people are willing to pay to park there on a regular basis, and that parking lot is typically full, and so is the side area that they can park on, and that's one of the things I brought up to Jeff, that we need the money right now, so we really need to get that sooner than later.
Yeah, and I know one of the issues was access with the big trucks and everything that were in there. So we hadn't put parking in, but something we definitely need to look into.
again, I think this is the responsibility of our CELCAB advisory board. And certainly, as we have the strategic plan on our upcoming agenda meetings, that will be first and foremost a topic of discussion. And certainly, I mean, for me, I would love for the town staff specifically to explore what the funding options are from the Division of Cultural Affairs with regard to replacing that building with something that certainly wouldn't be historic in nature, but could be serving a purpose for an educational facility, in addition to the parking lot there, but and keeping certainly the natural foliage that we had, but again, having a building.
Yeah, and that's been a talk with even the staff, and some friends of the Mound House, that we definitely want that in our vision as well.
Has anyone been in communication with Florida Communities Trust? Are they aware?
I believe they're aware. I know when Allison, she was communicating with them. I don't know where those talks went, but I believe they're aware that it's not there anymore. But we still have
Okay.
that trust agreement.
Okay, good to know. So we know what the status is. Okay.
And Madam Chair, just for my curiosity, was
Yes.
Newton Park, was the building itself declared a historic landmark?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. That may help us as
It met
well.
the beyond, of course, we had large discussions about, there were initially two buildings. There was one cottage that was built, I think, in the 30s or 40s, and then the cottage, which was called Seven Seas, was built in the 50s. And what determined it to be historic was if it was over 50 years old at the time that land was purchased. And so it could then qualify as a historic structure. But there were lots of people on this island that, and we had our historic advisor that was adamantly opposed to calling it historic because, 50s, it wasn't old. It just simply wasn't old.
And
So, yeah.
since you're providing such good history, for those who might be watching who are relatively new to the island, the concept of the name change, is there any history behind the name Seven Seas, just for historical curiosity?
The question was,
The Seven Seas, was there any history behind that name itself?
the Newtons called their cottage Seven Seas. Like some people would name their house
Yeah.
as particular, so that was the name of that building.
So it's kind of the nickname they gave it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was called Seven Seas. Oh, come to the Seven Seas Cottage, the
Okay.
Newtons would say. So yes, it did have a name, and we felt it was important to keep that name, and we called it Seven Seas. But we never got to call the entire park Seven Seas.
Okay, that's good history, thank you.
Okay, moving forward, if we don't have anything else, do you have anything else,
No,
Jeff?
that-
You're good? Okay. Friends of the Mound House report, and certainly we have our eminent president of the Mound House, Ellen Vaughn, here, and I know
Well-
she's chomping at the bit.
Chomping at the bit, yes, because obviously, this is the first time that CELCAB has met in quite a while, and I just wanted to report that the Friends began meeting again in November of last year, and immediately started planning what we could do to help move things forward. Even at that November meeting, we were talking about having some kind of celebration of the fact that the Mound House had survived. And I want to credit Betty Simpson coming up with the name of the event which we held at the end of March, Party for Preservation. And there was lots of discussion about how to put that together. And now that the event has occurred, and I think everyone will agree, it was a stellar success. Over the time, I will announce that financially, we thought it was an inopportune time to be asking people for money. And then we even decided that we weren't going to sell tickets, that we were going to underwrite the expense of having the event, and that we would ask for donations. And I can report that the event cost us just shy of $3,000. We pulled in about $2,000. So to put on that kind of an event for the island, I think was a worthwhile investment of goodwill on the front of part of the Friends.
And a part of that name comes from Ed Fitzsimons. And we had talked about this before, and he had always talked about preservation. And so we just thought that was important. And Sherry and I had talked about this in another light. And
Yeah.
so that's
Right.
partly where it came from.
Yeah, he was, Ted was one of our first council members, and he also a founder, and also was on the corporation committee, really founded it. And that was his big thing, even to get us incorporated, was preservation is progress. So we don't want to lose that. So that's kind of a little bit of the history behind that,
And then I
along
think-
with other people.
And as we now have new people coming onto the island, it's very important for us to make it very clear that this is a top priority for us. It's not just a party island. It
Right.
is about preservation. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, Kelly Burns, that was, the anchor for NBC News, was talking about the plovers that were now hatching. And she said, oh, yeah, they're hatching on Sanibel Island, and they're hatching at Lover's Key. She never once mentioned Fort Myers. Did you notice that? And I almost called her. I said, wait a minute, put Fort Myers Beach on that preservation map. It is, exactly.
Right.
So we do, and of course, I don't know that preservation is necessarily part of the mission, but it should be.
Were you able to get that on the map? Did that happen?
Did she get it? She didn't mention it, no, because that was just a broadcast that she made. She was just
Oh, that was a
commenting.
broadcast. Okay, all right.
But we definitely need to make, I think, our public aware, and certainly our residents, and definitely our visitors,
Yes.
about the importance of preserving what we have here on Fort Myers Beach, most especially the wildlife and the critical wildlife area. In any event, let's move forward. So Ellen, yes,
I
of
have
course.
some more topics.
Yes.
So I was just going to say, and actually, as we're discussing preservation, we did discuss what we would have in the way of fundraising events moving forward. And of course, we're a very ambitious lot. We will do something of a modest size, probably late in the fall. And maybe we'll tie it into the anniversary date of the museum opening, which would be November. And then we'll do something larger in the spring. And we were bantering around ideas of what kinds of things to have. But I'm beginning I'm going to throw out and recommend, and I'll bring it back to the Friends, that we always make sure that whatever event we have, we put preservation in the name. That should be our standard moving
Thank you.
forward. And that I think that will help with cementing this. Because I think all of us feel that we always talk about what makes Fort Myers Beach different is the Mound House. It's the Matanzas Preserve. It's the critical wildlife area. Those are things that make us unique, and we need to keep celebrating that.
Well, and that really sort of falls under the environmental part of our mission, which is very core to what the Mound House is about in general. So absolutely, it fits perfectly.
I will also report that the wonderful book we have about the founding of the Mound House, in November, we were very concerned that all of the inventory had been lost. We were very fortunate in that it had not been lost. So we were able to begin selling them books again. They're sold in this museum store. And yeah, so we're in good stead there. And then I will report that one of the activities that the Friends has taken on is that we were very fortunate to have been awarded a significant TDC funding grant for the Friends that Allison was so instrumental in making happen because she wrote the grant. And we have earmarked those funds to redo the website. So we have actually have a subcommittee that has been active. Pat McGowan is heading it. Pat McGowan is the author of the book of Friends of the Mountain House, so that demonstrates his abilities, not only to do things wonderfully well, but this, the drive to make it happen. So actually, Carrie, I will talk with you because we are having a Zoom meeting next week to talk about some of the companies that Pat had researched that do these kinds of websites for other not-for-profits and organizations in Southwest Florida. We had gotten that information from representatives from the TDC. And
Now,
then,
is that going to be funded by the Friends of the Mound House? then?
Yes.
Now, it's not going to be a staff position, because that's Jeff's bailiwick.
no,
right?
no, and we're doing so the subcommittee is Pat
Just wanted to
McGowan,
clarify that,
Nancy
yes.
Smith, and who are board members, and then Karina Bass is on the committee, and of course, nothing will be done without the consultation of Jeff and Adam. So we're just doing the groundwork.
Because they're the ones that are ultimately responsible
Oh,
for
absolutely
the
right.
administration.
Yes,
And,
yes,
and the oversight and the actual operations
Yes,
of
yes.
any web activity. But what you all are doing, I'm understanding, is doing the research and providing the resources and certainly the funding to fund that position, should there be an additional
Well, it's not the funding of the position, it's the funding to actually execute on having the website recreated, a brand-new website. Yeah. So we're not, the TDC funding is part of the arts and attractions.
It's arts and attractions,
So
right,
we can
yes.
fund the creation of the website, but not the operation of it.
Right.
But I think the Friends, because the operational costs are, the hosting costs are relatively minor, so I think that's something that we can have as a line
Yeah, that's like
item.
$120 a year or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Those details haven't been worked out yet, but yeah.
I'd be happy to help with that. I mean, I know how much things like that cost exactly because my office does that. So, yeah, I'd be more than happy to assist you guys. If you guys want to set up a call with me even before that to kind of educate me on stuff, I'd greatly appreciate it. And then I can definitely help in any way I can.
Thank you, Carrie, and I'll get your contact information from Jeff, and we'll go, and I'll touch base with you and then bring you up to speed on what we've been up to.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
And then I think everyone is aware that the town council had, I'm not sure what the proper terminology is, but the Shell Road that is the, I'm having a bad word day. It's on the the bay side facing, has been named the Dan and Ann Hughes Loop. And we'll come up with recommendations for some kind of signage. We'll figure out within the town guidelines how that has to be done. And we're also discussing.
But is that a Friends activity, or is that a
No,
staff?
the town did it, but I think the Friends should have, the Mound House should have some input into what that sign ought to look like.
But that's, again, that's staff related.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, so I think they've already kind of made,
It was passed by town council.
right,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think, again, it's your discretion, right? It seems to me that would be an appropriate thing for the town to pay for, if that's helpful, but whatever you want to do.
Oh, no, I wasn't suggesting that the Friends pay for that. It's just that the Friends had been part of the group that was shepherding that through the
Sure.
whole
absolutely,
process.
Absolutely.
And then the other shepherding we're doing right now is we want to have a recognition of honoring Bill Grace, who was so instrumental in the saving of the property. And so Susan Grace has kindly rejoined the board in an ex officio capacity to help advise us on all things in that nature. And we're coming to some conclusions as to how to do that. So I'll wait till those official meeting minutes get finalized.
okay, awesome, that's good.
So that's where we're about.
Okay, and so are you planning a fundraiser then for next season? Is that that's the primary function of the Friends? And what is the membership status that you have right now? I mean, obviously, everything's been shifted but do you know what the current membership count is?
You ask hard questions, I don't know
Oh,
the answer
sorry.
to that.
Well, we'll know soon enough.
We will know soon enough. We'll know soon enough.
Because I think our membership for the Mound House too has kind of gone by the wayside in terms of dealing with more pressing, emergency
Yeah, and
situations.
we did extend the membership period, so if you were set to expire, we did extend that out, just because of the hardship and not being able to use the Mound House or visit the Mound House, so.
Okay, so you did like an automatic extension for all members, and that probably includes Friends members too.
And that's the one thing one of our ongoing items on our monthly agenda is how do we expand the reach of the Friends? And we've been coming up with strategies, and of course, we had a little interruption in executing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So that's it about the Mount for the Friends.
Okay,
Very
thank you,
good,
Ellen.
thank you.
Okay, I think we can actually start with member items and reports. And Carrie, would you like to begin? Carrie?
Hello?
Yes, we're
Oh,
doing
I'm sorry, I
members,
lost you guys for a second.
member items and reports. Do you have anything that you would like to report?
No, sorry, I don't. I'm so new and I'm just learning, so I might have a lot of questions for each and every one of you, but right now I'm just learning a lot of stuff, but thank you. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. And again, welcome to the advisory board. I know you'll really enjoy it, and we're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Ellen, other than the Friends, do you have anything to
No,
report?
that seems to be the sphere of my, yeah.
Which
interest.
is-
Yeah, I
which
mean, I'm
is-
interested in more, but that's where I spend my time.
Which is amazing, given all the other things that you and all of us have to do about dealing with this hurricane repair situation. So thank you for that, Ellen. Betty?
Well, it's just great to have our CELCAB meeting today. Been looking forward to it and see everybody that is still on board, and we seem to be moving forward. I'm eager for the strategic plan to be able to address some of these things. They'd been addressed before, but with the hurricane and everything, there have been so many changes.
Yes.
So I think that that's very important for us to keep that in mind, and the strategic plan for both the Mound House and the Newton property, or Seven Seas, whatever we decide to call it. So that's fine.
I wonder if common usage can start taking hold.
I think so. I like that. Common usage.
Oh, Seven Seas.
Okay,
That's Seven
yes.
Seas meeting.
That's
Okay.
all I have.
Thank you, Betty. Sherry?
Well, one thing that I have noticed is the Mount House came through wonderfully. And the party that we had for preservation, we had a great attendance. Everybody seemed to gather and really enjoy it, and enjoy seeing each other, and enjoy the property. And I think with us being I think we're able, unfortunately, due to Ian, but we're one of the few places that are still intact.
Yes.
And I think it's really opening us up to a lot of people coming, like the Women's Club I know is going to start meeting there. And I think that we could be a real, I think, melting pot and meeting place for the community now. So I think this is, in some ways, it's a bad situation, but it's an opportunity to show ourselves off too. So, and just one other thing, that we are going to get all new merchandise, maybe not all new, but new merchandise in the gift shop. So that will kind of perk us up too. But that's about it. And I want to thank Jeff and Adam. Everyone's done a wonderful job.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Lori?
I am just still in awe of the fact that the Mound House survived so beautifully this horrible thing that happened to all of us. And it's just a joy in my heart that it's still there.
Yes.
If I could just interject that the Calusa really knew what they were doing when they built
Yes,
things up
they
high.
did.
Yes, they
Huh?
did.
Sure
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. And And Jim, do you have any thoughts?
Just a couple
Yes.
things I'd like to add. To Sherry's point about increasing interest to the Mound House, because it really, it's almost like when you're back there, you don't know the storm happened. It's so beautiful still.
Right.
But that being said, one of the things that's been so interesting, I was doing a little tour with this little show we do for with the fellow who runs the mooring field for the town, Austin, and he talks to a lot of the fishermen and women in the community, and he says he tells me that the Mound House is the place to go fishing. That fishing pier is
Really?
extremely popular right now, and it's also where all the fish are. A lot of people are going downtown to fish under the North Bridge, which is heavily damaged, and the pier is really almost no more there, the fishing pier. A whole section of the concrete fell out, and people are walking through this caution tape to still fish there. And he said, Jim, there's no fish there. Most of the fish, because of the unique geography of the Mound House, they're all at that Mound House, and that fishing pier is so beautiful. But I see a ton of people down there. And that's a new piece of information. That word is getting around that people just come over there to fish because they can park for free, and they
that's-
love it.
And that's precisely why that was purchased in the first place, because people recognize now, that's a public facility. Thank God the town did what they did, and the public can enjoy fishing there, which was, the raison d'etre for all of that. And so very cool that it's being utilized.
And just a couple of broader updates. The town council has a meeting on Monday. Our new town manager, Andy Hyatt, will be starting. That's his first day. He'll be tag teaming with the interim town managers for 2 weeks as he transitions. And we'll also be having a conversation about a temporary lighting fix on Estero Boulevard. As we know, turtle season begins in May, and we still don't have the appropriations from the state on the permanent lighting solution, which will be an amber lighting solution. So there'll be an interim proposal pitched on Monday that may be a little controversial, so you may want to keep your eyes on that. And then on Thursday, there's an M&P meeting, but that evening from 6 to 8, the Lee County Resiliency Committee that's chaired by County Commissioner Kevin Ruane, Councilor Veach is our liaison to that committee. They're having a public hearing here in this room here from 6 to 8 in Diamond Head. And that really is going to be a big picture discussion about, and the county has tremendous funds from both the feds and the state to help with post-Ian recovery. So that'll be a great opportunity for people in the community to give the county a sense as to what they want Bowditch to look like, Lynn Hall Park to look like, what the county should do to be helping the town, whether it's the new town hall, the lighting on Estero. We'll have a whole, it'll be just a tremendous opportunity to share and give guidance to the county's resiliency committee as to what the hopes and dreams of Fort Myers Beach. And of course, that's open to the public, and the public's encouraged to come out and be part of that.
What date is that again?
That's on May 4th, this
May
Thursday, this coming,
4th,
May
wow.
4th, I'm sorry, this coming Thursday from 6 to 8 at night here at the Diamond Head. And then lastly, I would say too, this is an aside, I was thinking about Jeff over there. I've been on this ad hoc committee to save the beach school. We have been in extensive negotiations with the representatives of the superintendent's office. We had a little bit of a challenge yesterday, and they've delayed the vote on the interlocal agreement that would be an agreement with the town and the county to partner together to save the school. The debate is really around how long the county's going to continue to support the school until we can meet certain metrics, i.e. cost per student and or enrollment. I think we certainly have a commitment for help. The question is, how long will that help go on? And that's what we're negotiating right now, and I'm confident we'll make progress on that. But I would just say, on this ad hoc committee, there's a number of parents who are, I can't tell you how attached these parents are to this beach school, as well as their children. They're very passionate about it. But I just want to say, as I meet and talk to all these parents and work with these parents, they just rave about Jeff over there, because from their experience at Bay Oaks, they all know you, and they just rave about the job you did. So I just wanted you to be encouraged, because there's a lot of goodwill supporting what you've done up there. So I think that's everything I've got. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, yes.
So actually, Madam Chair, if I could ask our Vice Mayor, if as the CELCAB committee, is there any value to us voicing our support for the beach school?
There's absolutely tremendous value in that, and if you go on the Lee County School District's website, there's a link that describes who the school board members are, and we have one for our particular district, that's Chris Patrica, and there's also 2 at-large school board members, so you can send this same email to all of those 3 people, and just encourage them to save the beach school, and quite frankly, you could send it to all of them on the school board, because they really need to hear from folks, because we're really at a delicate stage in the negotiations, and boy, any support that we could get to encourage the school board to make a long-term commitment to the beach school, that would just be wonderful.
So in addition to us sending individual letters, is there any additional weight to CELCAB sending one and then everyone's name be listed, so that, I mean, we are an advisory board to the town, and as an advisory board to the town,
Oh,
we feel that.
I love that, Ellen. I would never turn that down, and maybe Jeff could coordinate that. I would also say the Mound House may have a role in the future as we think about our charge. One of the action items for the school and the parents is to turn our beach school into a magnet school and have it be sort of a marine biology kind of a theme, and we could draw a lot of kids in off the island, given our proximity. And then, the Mound House has a great educational component, and if we could somehow partner with the school on that magnet school dynamic, I just think there's a lot of opportunities down the road for everybody to help, and that will help save our beach school, because we'll get more kids. Enrollment is a huge challenge, obviously, and the more kids we could bring off island on island, it's amazing how many people flock to these magnet schools, so that could be a possibility for this committee as well.
And Seven Seas could play a role in being a facility for that.
Right on the
those
front lines,
programs.
yeah, right on the ocean, yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
we'd have a bayfront location and an
Yeah,
off-front location.
Absolutely.
Lori?
Following up on that, I was at the library board meeting last month, and one of the parents came and did a presentation and said, if it happens, could the 4th and 5th grades come to the library for class if we can only get K-3 in the old building, or however it works? And she mentioned the magnet, and I think that's where it really should head. And that way we can get the numbers to where we need them to be to keep the school.
And I
Which
would-
it becomes a numbers game after the first year, does it not?
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely, and I think to Lori's point, I wanted just to say to Lori, the library board has been wonderful in welcoming the school, should they need additional room. The staff at the library has been great. I think one of the staff members is a parent, which helps as well. And, but the school has been a little bit reticent to do that. They have a number of regulations that prevent them from using other buildings, although the library is a wonderful building. So we were a little surprised that they didn't jump on that, but they have a litany of regulatory hoops they have to go through to have the kids in a different building, although, again, the library is an excellent building. So I don't think they're going to take the library option, but maybe.
It doesn't look like it's needed also.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's needed, but
Right.
maybe down the road, if enrollment does grow, that could be a possibility again.
Yeah.
Anything else to add as far as board member comments are concerned? I just want to add that I miss Bill. Bill Grays was just a wonderful historic advisor, and of course, he's no longer with us, and I'm so glad that Susan's here and that she's here in his stead, doing his work, continuing his fine work, and we learned so much through Bill over the years in terms of steering us in the right direction with some of the more difficult decisions that we had to make when we were developing the Mound House programming. So I have a lot of respect for Bill, and I miss him terribly, and I'm glad to see that you're here, Susan. Thank you. Let's set our next meeting date. Shall we do it a month and from today, on a Thursday at 3 like we normally do? We do have a lot of work ahead of us. It's very clear.
Right.
Because we've got one building that's gone. We have another building that's fine, but the underground exhibit needs work. There were things that were happening with the underground exhibit that now we don't know what the status is or what the funding is, but we need to address that. And so a lot of important work. May I recommend that we begin in monthly meetings from this point forward, starting with next month's meeting on Thursday at 3. Any suggestions?
I think that's an
That works.
excellent idea.
Yeah, so that would be May 25th then?
May 25th.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't have the actual date. Okay, May 25th. And then
Yes.
Jeff, if you can just put that on the council's
Yeah.
agenda for subsequent meetings, Thursdays at 3 is our normal meeting time.
Do we have any public that wants to speak?
Apparently, well, they do have another chance. Would you like to speak?
Opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, yes, by all means, Susan, come up,
Come on up.
absolutely.
For the record, it's Susan Grace. The website, I know you're still using ShopKeep, correct? You've got your inventory on ShopKeep, and I think, it's been a couple of years since I've worked with it, I think you can actually migrate that merchandise onto your website.
Okay.
Just
Anything about that, Adam?
just as a, I know that I was doing it with the Koreshan site
Okay.
when
Well,
I.
yes,
So
certainly.
that's,
yeah, I
that's
know
a-
there was some capabilities to it. I don't know exactly what, but it would, yeah.
yeah, and you can always call them, they're wonderful to answer questions. Okay, the other thing is, do you have any idea, Jim, of any kind of legality of feather flags? I was thinking in place of the brown sign, until we can get a brown sign, maybe a feather flag, but I don't know, what the town, rules are.
What location, I'm sorry, we're,
It would be at on Estero Boulevard, right there at Connecticut, with a feather flag saying that Mound House is down that way.
that's a great question. We should probably check with our permitting folks, but if we can, Jeff probably knows a couple people at Town Hall that might be able to pull a few strings. I'm surely happy to help, but they do watch us to make sure we comport with the sign ordinances as well. But and I know Beach Baptist, are you talking about, would it be at the Beach Baptist corner there?
Yeah, yeah.
I would
And
assume Pastor
think
Sean would
they've
be happy to
got
help.
some feather signs, but anyway,
I think
I
that's a
just
great
thought,
idea. I think
until we can get the brown sign.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm sorry, we do have some of those and have put that there in the past, so we could definitely look at that, but yeah, signage would be good.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Or
somebody
even
could paint us
somebody's
one.
inclined to want to do a hand-painted sign that's
Yeah.
been so popular on the beach.
That's a possibility too. We'll take anything.
Yes, exactly.
They're very helpful.
They are, and they're adorable.
Yeah.
Okay, great suggestion. Thank you, Susan. All right, if there's no further business to come before our CELCAB board, I would like to offer an option for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Second? All in favor?
I'll second her aye.
Thank you. All right. Meeting adjourned, and it is 3:08, or 4:08, rather,
4:08.
sorry, 4:08.
That's amazing.
Thank you very much. Good meeting.
Wow.
I'm sorry? Right? Right? Fast.